I'd like to call the October 12th Indian Head Park Board of Trustees meeting to order. May we have a roll call?
Trustee Donnersberger. Here. Trustee Eck.
Here.
Trustee Gazes.
Here.
Trustee O'Laughlin. Absent. Trustee Saldana.
Here.
Trustee Svetska. Absent. And President Wittenberg.
Here.
Thank you.
Could we now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on two different topics in the mayor's report today. The first will be the Wolf Road Study Team update. David? So we've had a little bit of a change to our schedule that I'd like to announce today, and I will explain a little bit why we have moved the date now to the feedback for the Wolf Road Corridor Study to be due Friday, November 3rd. So if you would make a note of that, we will be updating the Facebook page and getting all the word out to everybody, but I'm going to explain in a minute why we made that decision today with Cook County and the team. WolfRoadStudy.com, as you know, is an interactive mapping tool that includes a resident community survey, a newsletter, and also an application process for the Corridor Advisory Committee. You should feel free to go to the WolfRoadStudy.com website and interact with all of the different functionality that you'll see on the website. Below here on the image is the mapping tool where you can input parts, places on the corridor that you feel there are safety issues or issues that need attention on the corridor. It has different icons you can select and then place them onto the mapping tool. It also allows you to comment on other people's comments. So if someone has made a comment and you can read the comment, you can agree or disagree with the comment, which I think is a very important tool as you look at what people have attached to the Wolf Road Corridor map to date. So take a look at that. Don't be afraid of going into the interactive mapping tool and trying it. You can't break it. You can't delete anyone else's comments, so don't feel like you're going to do something wrong with the tool. It's there for you to interact with it and provide your feedback about Wolf Road. The Wolf Road website was launched on September 25th, 2023. The RM Chin Communications team contacted the agencies and organizations identified in the Public Involvement Plan, or what we call the PIP, that comprised the remainder of the CAC. This initial contact was made to make all of the PIP members aware of the CAC and to determine who will be on the the CAC representative from each agency and organization. So every member of the PIP, the Public Involvement Plan, will have a member on the CAC. Then Indian Head Park will have a total of 4 and Burr Ridge will have 1. The Communications Committee emailed 250 different emails from the 2022 meeting number 1 and other emails that were collected in the process from 2022. There were emails distributed to people from that process, 250 plus. It came to our attention recently that many stakeholders on Wolf Road did not receive notification of the wolfroadstudy.com, either in an email and hadn't received anything in the mail. So we have asked the committee, the study team, to send out a mailed hard copy postcard that they have agreed to send out to all Indian Head Park residents and Burr Ridge residents that are on Wolf Road. That postcard will be going out sometime, we believe, next week in the U.S. mail, and it will be received hopefully by all our residents so people are aware that may not be on social media or have email or prefer analog communication. So that is why the date has been moved, if people are wondering why we move the date suddenly, because we don't want there to be anybody that's questioning the openness and transparency and the communication about the Wolf Road project. So now, because of this process, the revised due date is 11/3 for the CAC application, and the public surveys will close on Friday, November 3rd. The CAC membership, the finalizing of the CAC membership with the village and the county will happen November 17th, and we will hopefully have our first CAC meeting in mid-December. That is the new tentative schedule, subject to change. We also want to let people know to please provide feedback on wolfroadstudy.com. There are many community discussions regarding the project that are occurring on multiple social media platforms and pages. The public feedback and survey results that will be used for discussion at the CAC meeting number 1, and they will be entered into the official project record, will be those that are submitted through the formal channels on the project website or directly to the study team. So if you have comments on social media, that's great, but make sure you're putting them into the wolfroadstudy.com. The village desires to share the raw, anonymized public survey results with the public after the results have been collected to improve our project transparency. So we are very hopeful that we're going to be able to take all of the comments, take out the sensitive names and all of that, and be able to share that information with the public. Pending county approval, this information will be cleared for public distribution. All Wolf Road project team meetings, agendas, and minutes are on the Project Documents tab on wolfroadstudy.com for public review. Please note there are analog options providing feedback if people do not have access to a computer. You can call the study team and leave a message, and you can also send written correspondence. If you'd please go to the next page, you can see that the number is right there to send a voicemail to the study team. The phone number is 779-803-4285, and there is an address for snail mail if anybody prefers to send a letter to the Wolf Road study team. For those that do not have email or that prefer to do it that way, or you have a neighbor that doesn't have a computer, please let them know about those options. Next slide. The other data that we are sharing for transparency and openness is the website analytics and usage. Every week we will report the usage and analytics. This includes how many people have responded to the survey, how many people have commented in social media, the number of points of engagement on the interactive map, and so on and so on. This will also be on the project website, and we will also be loading this to social media and the village website. Every week we have now 6 responses for the CAC application. So that's nice to see, because last week we only had 1. So it seems like people are interacting. 495 unique website views and 662 total website views. So it just gives you an idea of how people are interacting. Moving on to another topic, I wanted everybody to be aware, and I wanted to thank the board for their support, financial support, and our citizens. I was able to participate in the West Central Municipal Conference legislative trip in Washington, D.C. this last week for 2 days. I met with myself and 15 other mayors and support personnel participated in this event, which we were able to do these several things. We were able to participate in legislative updates from our U.S. Senator Duckworth, including a meet and greet with she and her staff discussing resources that can be utilized for Indian Head Park now in the future. We've already emailed Congressman Duckworth's staff counsel to request water and sewer funding for IHP now in the future. She was very, very open about trying to help municipalities with these initiatives, so we quickly jumped on that invitation and got our letter in on Monday morning. We also received a legislative update from Chris Welch, who is the State of Illinois Speaker of the House. discussing how resources can be utilized for IHP now and the future. Our to-dos are the House Bill 2507. We need to create emails to legislators to not move to override the changes in the fall veto session, which is an item we've already talked about, myself and Charlie Eck and Christina. This came up before. Long story short, our taxes are going to go up in our area because the nursing home lobby has pushed to have the taxes of nursing homes go down. We have a large nursing home in Indian Head Park. What that means is that's going to transfer the tax they're not paying to our residents. So we have been fighting for this to not happen, and we fought it successfully through this House Bill 2507. So now it's going to go to the veto session. So now that when we were in Washington, the lobby for the nursing homes has been very strong. So now we have to fight that they don't amend it and override the veto, because the veto session is coming up in a couple weeks. So if you have any questions on that, you can help us send the letters to the legislators to pressure them to not, to keep the veto. The other thing that we need to do is to follow up with Senator Curran on state grants for water, sewer, and other areas. Also, we are going to be talking with Joliet Road IDOT to try to acquire the land at Joliet and Wolf. That's a longer-term project. We also took a Verizon tour at their technology center. We'll be following up with them to discuss doing several things, looking at both Verizon and other vendors for telecommunications. So all in all, this is a great way to interact with our neighbors and all sorts of governmental representatives, both county, state, and federal, that we can take advantage of with grants and other ways to get funding for our village. We had never participated in this before. It is every other year, so I suggest that we try to do it once in a while to keep close with our legislators and our neighbors. Thank you. Moving on to the next item. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, and can we have a financial report if there are no questions on the consent agenda?
For the month ending September 30th, 2023, cash on hand beginning of September was $3,155,000. The payments for the month of September were $598,000. Our total revenues collected were $554,000, and so our ending bank balance was $3,111,000.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on the consent agenda before we move on for a roll call vote? May we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Donnesberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Gazzes.
Aye.
Trustee O'Laughlin, absent. Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
Trustee Sveska, absent. President Wittenberg.
Aye. I don't have to vote.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. That motion has passed. Can we now move on to new business? Can we have a motion, please, for item A?
I'll make a motion for the acceptance of the 2022-2023 annual audit management letter. Is that the motion?
That's right.
Okay.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Yeah, this is the first we've seen of this, and I'd like the opportunity to read it before I vote on it. And I would suggest that we defer this until the next regular meeting.
Aren't we just receiving and filing? Isn't that the proper motion? To receive and file.
Yes, we are
There's no
receiving this
approval, we're
report
just
from
receiving
the
file.
auditor, and the auditor is represented here today. and will give a presentation on the audit.
So what's the motion address?
Acceptance of the 2022-23
Report.
annual audit and management letter.
Well, until I read it, I don't want to accept it.
Well, he's
What-
presenting it, right? So
well-
he's going to be presenting the management letter. This is a common process
Oh,
to handle it this
I'm
way.
aware of the process, yeah. So are we going to have the presentation before we have the vote?
Yes.
Correct. He's going to stand up and do the presentation now.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
Just real quick, I want to first thank Helia, because I know she did a lot of work on this, and this will be her last audit at Indian Head Park. And a lot of the product you see before you and that Brad will go through required her input and her working with the team. And is it Brad or Greg? Okay, Brad, making sure. So Brad Porter is here with Lauterbach and Amen, our audit firm, and he will go through some of the highlights. But overall, the message is that this is a clean, unmodified audit, which is our goal is to get an audit opinion at that level. So that goal was met, and I'll let Brad go through some of the highlights and details, and he can also answer any questions you have about the audit.
I sure can. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Porter. I'm here on behalf of Lauterbach and Amen as the principal helping to oversee the village's financial statement audit process. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, and before we go any further, I would like to second those comments regarding Halia's efforts over the last couple of years. We've been greatly appreciative of everything that her and the team have put towards this audit process. An audit is no easy task by any means, and I know there's a lot that we ask of the team above and beyond their normal day jobs. So really appreciate everything, and best of luck in your next adventures. Now, there are 3 pieces of required communication that we issue at the conclusion of each audit process. The first of which is a 3-page letter under what we call Statement on Auditing Standard number 114. That letter, I think we had distributed 1 paper copy, but no need to pull that up. Ultimately, Statement on Auditing Standard number 114 requires us to state whether or not we had any disagreements or difficulties that we had encountered during our audit process. And I'm happy to report that in the body of that letter, you'll find no such disagreements or difficulties that were noted. Now, moving into the annual financial report, or more commonly known as your audit. That will be the thicker of the 2 bound documents in front of you here. Obviously, in the essence of time, I will do my best to kind of keep it very broad overview of some of the more important sections within this audit document, beginning with page 1. Give everyone a moment to turn there. You should find our Lauterbach and Amen letterhead here. This is what we call our independent auditor's report. In addition to stating your responsibility as management of the village, we go on to state what our responsibility is for your audit process, and that is to ultimately generate an opinion on the financial statements that were provided to us. I'm happy to report we did issue what is known as an unmodified opinion for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2023. Which is the highest form of opinion that any entity can receive in the government space. An unmodified opinion ultimately states that we as your auditors believe the financial statements are free from any material misstatement, and that there are sound internal controls in place over the numerous functions of the village. We perform a number of walkthroughs of your cash receipting, cash disbursement, payroll, you name it. We're ultimately checking the internal control environment prior to the generation of our opinion on the financial statements. So congratulations. That is, again, the highest form of opinion that any governmental unit can receive. I'd like to draw your attention to page 5. As your auditor, I will be the first to say that I understand sometimes the financial statements themselves can be quite overwhelming and difficult to understand and interpret. So we have this section here called our Management's Discussion and Analysis to help break things down into a narrative format. I can assure you that if you spend most of your time and energy in this section here, you're going to have a really good overview of fiscal year 2023 kind of at a glance. It'll have a lot of comparative data with the prior fiscal year, charts, graphs, things that are a little bit easier to understand than your statements themselves sometimes. Now, on page 26, I'd just like to cover our change in fund balance for our general fund. I'll give everyone a moment to turn there. So on page 26, you will find your income statement for your general fund. And the third line up from the bottom there is what we call our change in fund balance. I'm happy to report we had a pretty successful year in the general fund front, increasing our fund balance by about $422,000 for fiscal year 2023, which was really a byproduct of above budget revenues and below budget expenses for fiscal year 2023. So there is absolutely line item detail all throughout this report in relation to how certain functions and departments performed. But again, in the essence of time, obviously, I just wanted to highlight that we did have a pretty good year with our general fund this fiscal year. Now, moving into our management letter, that's going to be the other bound document that we issue during the audit process. Oftentimes, board's least favorite part of my communication, but I can assure you everything looked good this year. So ultimately, the management letter is going to be our means of communicating best practices, any upcoming accounting pronouncements that might impact the village, or anything kind of that falls outside the scope of the actual numbers. So we had 7 current recommendations this fiscal year, and I know that number seems kind of alarming at first, but I will assure you that 4 of which are related to upcoming accounting pronouncements that are going to potentially have an impact on the village. And I say potentially in the sense that we issue those same 4 management letter comments in every audit and management letter that we issue as a firm. So we will absolutely be assisting the village with the actual implementation process, so I don't want to cover these in too much detail tonight. Just rest assured that we will be covered with regards to all 4 of those accounting pronouncements over the next few years for implementation. We also had a comment related to our fund balance policy, which was current recommendation number 5. It is best practices across the industry for municipalities to have what we call a fund balance policy. In accordance with GASB 54, which basically states that when we reach a certain target for our general fund, we're going to do X, Y, Z with the excess surplus that we have. So it's kind of states the groundwork for some of the things you're probably already doing, but having it in writing is always a best practice kind of in the audit space. And we are happy to provide sample policies should the village want to make the decision to go that route. Comment number 6 was with regards to funds over budget. You are accustomed to seeing what we call cash basis financials. So we come in during the audit process and true up your year-end records to the accrual basis of accounting, which is going to include picking up expenses that are paid after year-end that related to a service period within the fiscal year, or picking up revenues that were receipted after fiscal year end that related to a period within the fiscal year. So things like this are going to happen. Ultimately, the Special Parks Fund had exceeded their budget by about $22,000 for fiscal year 2023. And again, I attribute a lot of that just due to timing of year-end accruals and other measures such as that. And lastly, we had one final comment with regards to a deficit fund balance for our capital improvement fund. This year, we had quite a bit of capital activity in our capital improvement fund. I think it was over $900,000 of capital-related expenses. We didn't necessarily have the funding source in that fund to help offset a lot of those expenses, which then drives what we call our fund balance into the deficit. So I would encourage you as a board to maybe make the decision to help recoup that deficit fund balance with some general fund dollars. Obviously, we talked about a pretty big surplus with fiscal year 2023. There are other funding mechanisms to help bring that fund back into the green. We had 2 prior recommendations. We've provided status updates in the status paragraph on those 2 comments as well. So I won't go into too much detail on those here this evening. But I know there's a lot of material here and I threw a lot at you, but I'm happy to help answer any questions that you might have or kind of go from there.
The special parks is such a finite number that we know because it's on the tax bill. What,
I think it was timing.
oh, it was a timing issue?
And-
Okay,
And the capital improvements is where we're getting reimbursed for, from a grant. So we have not received those funds, so that's also
Okay.
timing too.
all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then on the 2 items from last year, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so those are prior recommendations would be anything that we've issued comments for in the past. We then provide a status paragraph explaining whether or not those comments have been implemented or if they're going to be repeated for another fiscal year.
So I'm not seeing, were those completed?
I do not believe they were. I think those were repeat comments.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we should make a note of that then. If you're saying they weren't completed from the last audit, then we should be completing
Oh,
those.
I apologize. I misspoke.
Right?
One of which
Okay.
was implemented, and that was with regards to lease reporting for
Okay.
GASB 87. But the capital asset historical records comment, that one does still exist.
Okay,
We recommend kind of full appraisals every so often, just to make sure that the value of our capital assets on the books are accurately reflected. Obviously, a lot changes with regards to land value and the value of some of your other assets, especially in a fluid market such as this one. So,
Are you recommending any appraisals at this time on any of our assets?
so I'd have to go back and look at when the last one was. We periodically recommend them every 10 to 15 years. So I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head when the last appraisal that you had was.
Which properties are you talking about here?
It would be all village-owned land, property, equipment, buildings, pretty much a full-blown appraisal of all village-owned assets.
And we'll follow up with the audit team and identify which specific properties that is.
Sounds like all of them.
Very likely.
Let's go back to number 7 on the recommendations with this deficit fund balance of almost 600,000. What's the net financial impact on the village in regards to this item?
So, I mean, fund accounting obviously gets a little bit tricky. We're reporting separate individual columns for each primary function. So we've got a general operating fund that had a pretty big deficit this year. If the village isn't making a board-approved action to
By this year, you mean what period?
sorry, fiscal year 2023.
Thank you.
So if the village, come year end, has not made the decision to say, we're going to recoup the capital improvement fund by X dollars to ensure that we're preventing a deficit fund balance like this from happening, that can certainly be done. Obviously, to your point, when you have grants involved, it's a little bit tricky as to when are we gonna get reimbursed. So a lot of state-run projects, county-run projects can get a little bit untimely in nature.
Amy Jo, might this be the $500,000 that the previous village administrator was talking about switching from one account to another?
I don't think that happened, so I think he talked about borrowing for the pump house from the general fund, but that never happened.
Is this pump house related?
No, I
It's
think-
capital improvements
Pump house work is not a capital improvement?
on the fund too, but not on the general fund. So this would be roads, and I think we're getting reimbursed. We should be getting reimbursed from the state for those expenses. We have to wait until we have, pay the bill, and then once that check clears, then we can submit that paperwork to the state, and they'll reimburse us.
And this,
For the full 597,000?
That I can't speak to because I wasn't part of that.
it's the Acacia project?
Yes. And some of the Wolf Road study reimbursement.
I didn't understand that.
It's the Acacia Drive project and some of the Wolf Road study. Were the expenses that we're waiting for reimbursement on.
Okay, and what's your sense as to how much we're waiting for reimbursement? For the full amount, a portion of it, or?
It should be close to the full amount.
Thank you.
I don't have a direct or a finite number, but it should be close.
Yeah, when that cash receipt comes in, obviously, we're gonna have basically an inverse effect on your overall fund level position at that point, so.
Are we spending too much time on fund accounting in the village?
I'm not really sure how to answer that one.
Okay. With all the various funds that we have, where we've got money going here, money going there,
I think
do
the
we- do we-
unfortunate
do-
reality is it is necessary and kind of best practices. Most municipal clients that we work with have a similar volume of funds reported in their audit.
okay.
Any other questions?
Aha.
If there are no other questions, then I would like to entertain a roll call vote for the acceptance of the annual audit management letter.
Trustee Dennisberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
My comment remains the same, is that there's an awful lot here, and we just got this. And whereas the report is excellent, it's a clean report from our accountants, and I understand that. But I'd certainly like the opportunity to read this before I vote on it, so I'm going to defer voting, or abstain.
Abstain. Trustee Gazzes.
Aye.
Trustee O'Laughlin, absent. Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
Trustee Svetska, absent. Do you need to vote? No.
It passes.
Pass.
Motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And thank you, Helia, for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
May I have a motion for the next item under new business? Item B, please.
I make a motion for resolution number 11-2023, appointing village administrator as delegate to the Illinois Risk Management Association and finance manager as alternate.
I'll second that.
So just real quick, the Illinois Risk Management Association, also known as IRMA, is our insurance pool. The board of directors of IRMA is made up of village administrators, finance staff, and other local government professionals. And passing this resolution will allow us to represent Indian Head Park at those at that level at IRMA. At the board of directors meetings, and in my absence, Helia will represent Indian Head Park. So,
Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Dennisberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Gazzes.
Aye.
Trustee O'Laughlin, absent. Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
Trustee Svetska, absent.
Motion has passed. Can I have a motion for the item C?
I
of
make
new
a
business?
motion to accept, to approve resolution number 12-2023, approving a one-day liquor license for Halloween event in Black Hawk Park.
I'll second that.
So we're having a Ghouls and Goblins Festival in Black Hawk Park on the 28th, Saturday the 28th, from 3 to 7. We are also having a pet costume parade in Sacagawea Park at 10:30 in the morning. We hope you'll all bring your costume pet. Mind you, not just dogs, canines, but pets. So at 10:30 a.m., you can all come participate in the pet costumes at
Parade.
Sacagawea, and then come at 3 to 7 and have food trucks. We have several food trucks coming, and a brewery called Milk Money. That's why we need this important resolution passed for the one-day liquor license. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Dennisberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Gazzes.
Aye.
Trustee O'Laughlin, absent. Trustee Saldana.
Aye.
Trustee Svetska, absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. May I have a motion for new business item D?
I make a motion for the recommendations for changes to the 2022-2023 budget.
Second.
We are?
This is just discussion. This is
Oh.
more discussion.
It's-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just moving I didn't say approve. I said I make a motion to put on the table the recommendations for changes to 2022, 2023
Thank you
Second
for
again.
for
Thank you for
discussion.
that.
So, met with the Finance Committee last week, and we talked about opportunities for changes to the 2023-2024 budget to make it a more realistic, I think, document is one thing we were looking at. We had also been having discussions with the Finance Committee about cash flow, and Helia has provided updates on a monthly basis of our cash flow. And based on the way the budget was set up for this year, the cash flow report shows that we will run out of money in February, I believe, of 2024. When you dig down into the numbers, the biggest item that changes that landscape is the $500,000 that we got ARPA money, American Recovery, ARPA. Whatever ARPA stands for, I'm sorry, I've forgotten that. That funding in the amount of $500,000 is in our general fund. It is budgeted as an expenditure, but it is not associated with any specific project or any specific expenditure, which, in my opinion, throws off the budget picture and the cash flow picture by $500,000. A lot of our discussion has also been around how do we pay for the pump house, and one way to do that would be to use that $500,000. It would have to be transferred to the water fund and then use it for the water capital expenditures. And my recommendation, though, at this point is to leave it in the general fund, knowing that we have that option to transfer that to the water fund to pay for the pump house. Again, timing came up as an issue on a couple of items in our audit that was presented tonight. I don't want to transfer that before we need it, before the time comes to pay those bills for the pump house, and then not be able to, it'll be there, it'll just be sitting in the water fund unspent. We'll have discussions in next year's audit about why is that $500,000 overage in that fund. So I would prefer that we leave it where it is for now, but possibly look at designating it as assigned to the pump house project, or in some way pull it out of just our regular expenditures so it paints a more accurate picture of where we stand financially. In the meantime, we can also continue to explore opportunities to invest those funds within our policies, within legal limitations, and local government best practices. And that sums up my recommendation. And I'm focused on Charlie because we had a lot of back and forth about this at the
Good back and
Finance
forth. And as chairman of the Finance Committee, I appreciate the work that staff has done in Helia in particular, and yourself. There's a lot more than just the 500,000. You've identified pretty close to a score of items that may not come to pass and that we could adjust as well. But we don't have those officially in front of us, and so at the present time, then we're still officially obligated to go with the budget that was approved without the changes. The total on those budget items exceeded the 500,000 by approximately how much? It was substantially more than the 500,000.
I think it was the total of the larger items that we identified was around $1 million,
Yeah.
a little bit more than $1 million. That is, we have a lot of flexibility with those amounts.
Yeah. So part of the concern that we were all sharing is that we've got roughly $3 million in reserves at the present time. Most of it, more than 90% of it, is invested. which is substantially different than where we were a year ago. Thank you, Helia. You've kept a sharp eye out on that as well. And part of what we're looking at, in addition to changes to the budget, is, as was indicated, the possible financing of the pump house, and is that something that can be done in such a fashion that allows us to keep our reserves high and investable? And the key word, I think, here is investable. We're exploring whether or not we can borrow money for the pump house and keep the funds available to be able to invest those, and maybe even arbitrage some of the money, but we don't know that yet, and we're exploring that. But as far as your comments in regards to the budget, I certainly agree with them and appreciate staff looking at the possibilities of expense reduction. Thank you.
I have a question. Sorry, you were gonna make a comment. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you did bring up the lever that we have the most control over in all of this discussion is controlling expenditures. I think that's again where we have the most control and where I think we should focus our efforts. In the meantime, we will also continue looking at and exploring those investment options.
The ARPA funds that you mentioned, we have to spend it, and what's the deadline?
January of 2025.
Okay, so we're basically gonna build it into the next budget to basically spend it all into the next budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments or recommendations for changes to the budget? Okay.
Well, we haven't specifically made recommendations for changes in the budget. Will we be doing that at the next meeting?
I can't guarantee that we'll have something specific at the next meeting. That's why I put it on here as more of a discussion item for this meeting. I did want to know if there were any specific directions you wanted us to go to bring back to the next meeting. We will have another opportunity to talk about it at the next Finance Committee meeting. And at that time, we may have more specifics. We will certainly have more information of, we'll have a whole nother month in our cash flow report and understand better that. We will also know more, we will have some bills coming due on the pump house, so we'll know where we stand on that and how much remaining we have from the pump house. So I don't want to say, yes, absolutely, I will have very specific recommendations, but I am working towards the goal of having specific recommendations. And at the same time, we'll also be starting to work on the next year's budget. So some of those recommendations may not show up till next year's budget recommended budget. But I am certainly remaining focused on our cash flow and on any way, again, that we can save expenditures and focus on keeping those low.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move on to item number 6 on the agenda, which is public comments? If there's nothing else, then we are at the point in the meeting where we have public comments.
Hi, Jack Brandish, 15 Deercrest Square. I was here last month talking about senior discounts for vehicle stickers and the inequality of the fixed costs for our water bills. Has the board looked at that at all? Have they done anything?
No, we remember your comments and take your comments seriously. As we go into the budget session for next year, we will be looking at water infrastructure, water rates, and we will be looking at vehicle stickers. Right now, as you know, vehicle stickers make up a huge part of our revenue stream. So as they go into the Finance Committee and your recommendations, we'll have to take a look at what that will mean to the budget regarding the senior citizen discount. But we'll make a commitment to look at those things, and we'll get back to you. Next Finance Committee meeting is, when?
November 6th.
November 6th.
Can I respond on some of
So-
that?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we've already passed the budget for the current year, and we've already got the vehicle stickers costs pretty much paid, I think.
Yep.
So what we'd be looking at as part of the budget process, and I just wanted to say it may not be the next meeting, Madam President. It would be part of the budget process for the coming year. Not only do we look at expenses, but we also look at revenue and sources of revenue. And the mayor's committed to look at senior discounts for vehicle stickers as part of that review. So that would be part of the Finance Committee, and that probably won't happen until the budget gets looked at closer in the next several months. But it probably won't be in the next meeting.
Well, like, it's not going to be, what he's saying is our budget year is through April, so we will approve the new budget next May. So you won't expect anything this budget year. So what we're looking to do is do that for the 24, 25.
Okay.
So we're at 22, 23, 23, 24, yes. So what we're basically saying to you is we're going to start talking about that, but there's not going to be any formal change until we work out the numbers for the next budget year.
How about the formula for the fixed rate costs for our water bills?
Right, we understood your comments to be the senior citizen discount for the wheel tax, and the other comment you made was the fixed portion of the water bill.
Right.
So when we emailed Congressman Duckworth this last week, our comment to her in writing was that our seniors and our fixed income, our residents, have been paying very high water rates, and we want their help to bring our infrastructure costs down so we can change and lower our water rates. So I heard what you said last month, and that's why I emailed Congressman Duckworth immediately to try to see if we can get some relief to get some of these infrastructure things settled. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping we can get some money to be able to fund some of these things and then go back and look at the water department and see how we can realign things. It's a pretty big project to do this because for many years we didn't invest in our water infrastructure, and that's why we had to raise the rates to the point that we did, because we kicked the can down the road for so many years. So we're in an unfortunate situation, and now we have to try to unravel that with other revenue, and we're trying to look for those ways to do that.
Okay, just a point on the way the rate is calculated nowadays, okay, today. It's really unfair to the HOAs, you know, the townhomes, versus the single-family homes, the way that rate is now calculated. The townhomes are, the townhome and the single-family home pay the same rate as far as the fixed rate goes. And the amount of area covered for sewer and for water line is a lot less for an HOA. The homes are crammed together, okay, versus a single-family home which has a lot more sewer, a lot more water line. So it's kind of unfair for the townhomes to pay the same rate as a single-family home. That's my comment. I think you should be looking at the formula on how that's calculated. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. We'll be working on it. Any other comments?
Really? Stand on my toes. Really quick, do we have hours for trick-or-treating yet?
Chief, do you know the hours?
I'll look them up, I'll put them out. It usually only goes to about 7 o'clock. It's probably from, it's a Tuesday, so it's probably from 3 to 7
The-
Okay.
We'll confirm for sure.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking is Acacia wants to get their newsletter out tomorrow, and they kind of wanted to put the hours in there. So if I went with 3:30 to 7, I would probably be okay? Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Then I have another question that was brought up at our board meeting, and it has to do with speeding on Cascade. Between the Acacia Clubhouse, past Black Hawk Park, it's a big circle. And I live right there, and I can tell you people go 40 miles an hour easily, past a park and around a curve that has cars parked on both sides of it. Now, the first request that the one resident made was, well, is the village looking into putting a sidewalk from the east side of the park onto Cascade? And I said, I don't think so. Then the next question was, well, could they stripe a walking bike path on the road? I said, I don't know about that. I'll bring it up. Then two other suggestions were, one is bring back the no parking signs that used to be on Cascade, one side of the road you could not park on, so that you wouldn't have cars parked on both sides. And the other thing, two other things. One is, could we possibly look into the speed tables leading into the park and around the curves? And the other is, could we please get the police department to issue tickets? I had a resident actually tell me that an officer said, well, we don't like to give tickets. Well, if you're speeding, you should. I hate to see it go to an accident or a kid running from the park across the street getting hit by a car. But if we could have, I mean, the police are there all the time. We have great presence, but you never seen anybody get pulled over for speeding. And our residents would like to see that happen. Those are my two. Okay? Absolutely. I will do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
I just had a follow-up question. Debbie Brannon, 6500 Wolf Road. I appreciate you having the postcards sent out to the Wolf Road stakeholders, and you mentioned that they were going to be sent to the residents of Wolf Road. Will they also be sent to the residents whose maybe backyards or side yards are along Wolf Road, or just
It's going to be the entire village
the entire village of Indian Head
is
Park?
getting the postcard.
Okay.
It's
All
just the Burr Ridge people.
Burr Ridge people that are only
that
on
are
Wolf Road.
on Wolf Road, correct.
Okay, great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no problem. Thank you.
Karen Barthel, 24 Sauk Trail. Can anyone tell me what or when the generator is going to be placed at Wilshire Green? We have looked at a pile of mud and wood and pipe above ground for almost 4 months, and nothing is happening.
I don't know the answer, but Gavin can certainly find out.
I know that there is an initial inspection scheduled for tomorrow morning at that
well, that's
location.
good to hear.
It's not a final inspection. It's
There's just been no movement for so long. And I knew they had to put in drain tile, and then the pipes are still laying there. I don't know if the drain tile went in or what, and it's really an eyesore.
I understand, and my understanding is that tomorrow's inspection is about drainage to make sure that those tiles were installed correctly and that the drainage is happening as required.
Thank you.
Any other resident comments?
Hi, Frank Lesh, 6411 Indian Head Court. I don't know that this is necessarily a village thing, but I've lived on it there for 45 years now, and I have noticed that the past about year and a half, the ambulances and fire trucks that go down Wolf Road have their sirens going the whole time. And it only used to be when they got to like Acacia or Wilshire Green, or if somebody was in the way. But I mean, even at 5 o'clock in the morning, these things are just roaring, and they're just incredibly loud. I don't know if the village can do anything about that.
Well, honestly, because we have a new village administrator and a new police chief, we are going to have a meeting with the Pleasant View Fire Protection District soon. And we're going through all of the different agencies to meet with them and get familiar with people. So we will bring that up because you are not the first person to talk about this.
Yeah.
We all hear the sirens a lot. Before on Sundays, they would only use them if they had traffic, so
Right.
we will bring that up and see what's changed. Maybe they have a standard operating procedure or process that's changed because of liability, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we will bring that up with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, if there are no other comments from the public, then we will move on to item 7, which is reports. Could we go through trustees? Mr. Gazis.
Sure. Planning and zoning did have a workshop on October 3rd led by Village Attorney Patrick Branken. Most of the commission members were in attendance, along with Gavin and a few noisy residents, myself. We covered the duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission and also went over the standards for variances, variations, and special uses. The workshop was about an hour long, and then was a little bit Q&A. For the board's edification, new chairman Scovich and the committee, as we've been kind of in a dormant period since the Wolf Road Triangle / car wash project now has been on hold, so to speak. They would like to make themselves available for any kind of proactive use that we would find appropriate, be it working with the Economic Development Commission or starting looking at code, et cetera. Typically, and those commission meetings are open to the public. They will occur, they're listed on the website, and those will occur typically on the first Tuesday of the month, usually from about 7 p.m. till about 8:30. Second report from the police committee. Those meetings will occur with new Chief Walsh. Brenda O'Laughlin is the lead trustee on that, and I back her up. Those meetings will typically occur on the first Wednesday of the month. They're also on the website between 4:30 and 6 o'clock, discussing issues, law enforcement, community, police, etc. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Donnersberger?
Well, I'll start out with when our Economic Development Committee meets, which is the third Thursday. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. The third Tuesday of the month. We meet at 6:30 here in this room. All are invited. That committee is currently working on getting businesses together for a roundtable. We'll see how that goes. The Senior and Family Connections Committee hosted about 50 seniors in this room. I think it was last week. I've lost track of time. Maybe it was the week before, but we had a great turnout. We had Pat Hines, who is the township assessor, come and talk to us. And in addition to talking about the various exemptions that we're all eligible for, especially seniors, he also gave us the bad news that the president gave us tonight, and that is our taxes are probably going to go way up, and not just because of the nursing home, but all of our surrounding communities that have already received their tax bills, they've received significant increases. The other thing that if I might, before I yield the floor, is I just want to mention that this week, I think most of us knew Monday, is celebrated in many localities as National Indigenous Peoples Day. And each year by statute or presidential proclamation, the month of November is designated as National Native American Heritage Month. And why do I bring this up? Well, because we're Indian Head Park, and I think we need to acknowledge both of those. The Forest Preserve of Cook County has something called the Land Acknowledgement Statement, which they read before every meeting. So I'm going to steal from them a little bit here. They say, quote, "The Forest Preserves of Cook County," but here I'd like to substitute the village of Indian Head Park, "acknowledges that we are all on lands of the Council of Three Fires, Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, as well as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, and Sauk peoples. We acknowledge that we've played a role in shaping the history of local Native Americans by acquiring the land. We also recognize, share, and celebrate their ancient ties to this land. I invite those of of us present today that we commit ourselves to develop deeper partnerships that advocates for the progress, dignity, and humanity of the many diverse Native Americans who still live and practice their heritage and traditions on this land, and to fulfill our obligations to preserve the natural beauty which has been left to us by them. Right now, we're engaged in an effort to ensure that our beautiful village maintains the natural beauty and serenity left to us by the Native Americans. As we attempt to address the need for progress, let's not forget our obligation to continue the rich Native American traditions that teaches us to live in harmony with nature, to appreciate and care for its beauty and the serenity it provides, not to destroy it in the name of progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Eck?
We've already talked about the finance. First of all, thank you. I think that was very nicely stated. Thank you. As already indicated on the Finance Committee, we're looking at two things. One is the budget for next year, and we've already chatted a bit about that. We're also looking to find ways to keep our cash reserves high, which translates into the possible financing of the pump house, and that's a process. Hopefully we'll have more to report on that in the coming months. As it regards Public Works, we're continuing to look at the three main buildings owned by Indian Head Park, this building here, Public Works, and the Heritage Center, and looking to evaluate their usage, their capabilities to meet our needs and recommendations for possible changes down the road. This too is a work in process. That's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Saldana?
I just want to add also about the Senior and Family Connections Committee will meet on October 20th is the next time. We actually are pairing it up the same day that Public Works meets, so it's in the calendar. We have been working on the planning of the Goblins and Ghouls event, which is, as you mentioned, on the 28th, and flyer and the signs are going to be posted soon. Also, it was brought to my attention that the Township of Lyons has this shred event, paper only, in this case, here at the Township building, and I wanted to mention it. It is it's Friday, October 27th, right before our Halloween event, from 8 to 10 a.m., and there's going to be flyers here if you want to take them and give them to people. This is a popular event, the shredding events, because people suddenly realize that they have too many pieces of paper in their home and boxes that they need to get rid of, and it's easier this way because it's free. And that's it.
Thank you. Village Clerk? Village Treasurer?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Village Attorney?
No report tonight, thank you.
Village Administrator?
Thank you, President Wittenberg. I do want to go through some of the high priority items that I presented to the board at the committee of the whole, and I'm just going to hit some highlights on what we've done since I presented these in some of these areas. Again, this is just a part of the list that I'm maintaining, adding to, crossing things off of as we achieve them. It's a couple of pages long, but this is just the things that I'm committed to getting us through by the end of the year, project-wise. In going through those, through each area of the village operationally, starting with administration, we're looking at staffing. I'm putting out a posting for an assistant village administrator to replace the position that Andy Farini had served in for a number of years. But I'm also looking, yesterday I spent part of the day at NIU Naperville learning about some of the best practices around internships, establishing an internship program. I know the way we got Andy was through an internship, but there are also other opportunities of building that into our processes, having an intern every year. in establishing a program where we become known as a place that's a good internship experience. And you know, already having Andy having had Andy go through an internship here, a lot of there were some students at this event who had heard about Andy's story about his experience here and got good vibes from that, so that helps. And we can continue that tradition, have an intern come in, do some management analyst type work for the village administration, have them loan them out to the police department for Chief Walsh, so that we can get some things done around here. And we have a lot of a lot of opportunities for an intern to add value to what we're doing here, which is rewarding for us, rewarding for the intern, and a good experience all around. I also learned about some capstone project opportunities. If we have projects that need to be done by teams of graduate students who are at the end of their studies, most of the time they have internship experience, so they're not, you know, these are not baby administrators. They've had some experience, and they can work as a team to provide some help to us on some of our projects that we've got, some of which are you know, on the list. Then we're also working on a transition plan for finance. So we'll be looking at that. We're looking at opportunities in our staffing to restructure in the administration area. We're still assessing the needs across the whole organization, but we're assessing the budget impact of outsourcing possibly grants management or finance in the future. Building permits or code enforcement could be outsourced, as well as some of our social media and communications work. So again, we're looking at this, we're looking at the budget impact, we're looking at the impact on service provision, and what's the most efficient and most effective way of getting these things done. In the communications area, we've updated the Village Voice. I hope everybody out there has received their new Village Voice. And that will continue being one among many ways that we communicate with folks about what is happening at the village, what we're doing, what we're accomplishing, what's coming up. We're also really focused on getting more information posted online, but also getting it out. You know, President Wittenberg talked about the Wolf Road project and how we're some of the delays in getting the word out are because we want to get it out the right way, and we want to get it in ways that people are going to consume that information. So we're keeping that in mind with all of our communications and all the different channels that we can use. And as far as planning and zoning, Trustee Gazis mentioned that we had the training. We're also looking at the possibility of outsourcing building permits, as I mentioned earlier. We're filling that gap right now with help from Don Morris architecture firm. And we're looking at building code updates next. We will certainly be bringing that to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then we talked about business attraction and business engagement. Trustee Donnersberger talked about that. So in the area of finance, we've already talked a lot about the budget review that we're doing, and that continues. That's going on an ongoing basis, and as we roll into the next budget year's planning, we will continue assessing this year's budget, looking at opportunities on next year's budget, and that's just going to be a constant churn, so to speak. And we will certainly involve the committee in that. We, again, in the audit presentation, our auditor mentioned the need for a budget policies such as a fund balance policy. I think there are some policies we have. Consolidating those all into one place would be a project, so that we have one place to go to for all of our policies instead of having to search through resolutions from the past that that speak to policies, but those also should be reviewed and updated, just like the appraisals will be updated. So in the finance area, developing policies, having those all in one place is something that we are already working on. Under police, we have hired a police chief. I'd like to introduce to you Chief Matt Walsh. So, and I'll give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on in the police department shortly. And we have been discussing the prosecution and adjudication processes and how we can make those more efficient and more effective. And we have talked about cameras and how to most effectively implement those and use those to the best of to their highest level. The chief is also reviewing staffing, and today the Fire and Police Commission approved moving forward to fill a vacancy that we have among officers, and we'll continue evaluating other staffing needs. Under Public Works and our water superintendents in the back, everybody say hi to Justin. And we're beginning the review of candidates tomorrow for our Public Works Director position. We've received 11 resumes, and I'll share those with the Public Works Committee, the board members on the Public Works Committee. Our engineering RFQ that went out, we received 4 responses, including 2 from engineering firms that we already have relationships with. So we're reviewing the other 2 to see if we would benefit from adding them to our team. And then on the pump house, I'll let Justin give you an update on the pump house shortly. And then finally, in your packets, we received for the 2023 budget, 2024 budget, our current fiscal year budget, we received the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association Award for the budget presentation, which indicates that our budget reflects the highest standards and best practices of the Government Finance Officers Association. So that's something that a lot of villages hope to achieve, and we have achieved it a number of years in a row. Do you know how many?
7.
7 years in a
As long as
row.
I've been here.
As long as Helia has been here. So I think there may be a correlation. So, and that's my report.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick, is there, do we have any association with Municode? Are we able to consider that as a possibility so we can have all the codes and policies and regulations up there?
All our codes are in one place. We use Civic Plus.
Civic Plus, okay.
And it's not that our codes, our our municipal
Codified.
code, everything's codified. It's just you have to search for, an investment policy was a resolution that was passed, or, it's not all in a policy binder, so to speak.
Ah.
So that's a goal of mine.
Yeah, I think it's an
It's
organizational
organization. Mhm.
part of it. And I think that is widespread across all of our records. That will be maybe a capstone project for some student. Could we have department head reports? Chief, would you like to go next? Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. As Gavin said, we've been talking a lot, and I'm trying to review our policies. Right now, we're working off some old policies, and I want to transition to Lexipol, which is a much better, more easily managed manual. However, it's going to take some time because there's a lot of edits that are going to have to be done to make it specific to Indian Head Park. We did have the Police and Fire Commission meeting today where they approved us to hire one, and there's work off the list that we have for laterals. I'm looking to trying to audit what we have right now, who has what equipment, along with the evidence. I went over to the evidence area there. There's not that much in it, so I'm not concerned, but I do have to account for everything. I'm working on Safety Act compliance. Now, we have cameras, body-worn cameras and different things, so I'm not concerned about that. However, there's some procedures that they have to follow for the no bail, and I have to get that out to them. I just got a department special order from another department, and I'm going to basically plagiarize it and put it out for our people. But it's very good, very, very thorough on how we have to handle these things, because it's not like we used to do it. I met with Cook County for the response to Highland School. They're going to send me their response plan. I also learned that we have access to the building through lock boxes. The communications center has the code. They don't give the code out until it's needed, because then they change it. So, but we do have an ability to get into the school, because as we discussed, Indian Head Park will probably be the first on the scene. So we need to be able to get in there and mitigate the scene, to take care of it. And then I'll be at the Illinois International Chiefs Conference next week. I won't be back till next Friday. Unfortunately, the IT's been having a hard time getting emails onto my personal phone here from the village, so if you don't hear back from me, you will. It's just I'm not able to access them, and it's part of my ongoing training requirements. And I want to meet with you so I can give you the commander's email, so you can send that to him as well, okay? So we can get on that. That's it. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. And is there anything new on the the Wolf's Head case at all?
Yes. Okay. Detective Kassane he's getting a search warrant for the phone now. He got a search warrant for the car. They're trying to get prints off of the phone. I don't know if there were prints on it or not, because it's been sent to the lab. So everything's been sent to the lab. That's the only update they have. They do have a name of the offender that they think is the offender, but they have to get the phone and see if they can prove it. Now, I told them some of the departments have gray key. They can break into the phones, and I know people that can do that. So as soon as we can get the search warrant, I'll get the phone over to them.
Great, thank you. If you all didn't hear, there was an attempted break-in to the Wolf's Head, and one of our officers broke that up and heard the glass break, and because it was interrupted, there was a lot of things left at the scene, including a vehicle and other things, tools and other things. So that happened about a week ago. So we're Wolf's Head. Yes. Thank you, Chief.
I have a question, not quite as serious as a Wolf's Head break-in, but there were a lot of mailbox break-ins in Ashbrook. I understand there was a suspect identified. I'm wondering what happened.
Person of interest, the detectives had gone out to the house on a couple of occasions, have been not successful in locating them, but they're going to continue to do so. I was telling Trustee Eck that one of the detectives is on vacation when he comes back, because I will not send one person to the house. Two have to go.
Okay, thanks. Anything else for the chief before we move on to Public Works and Justin? Justin, do you have a report? Maybe a pump house update? Thank you.
Surely do. Surely do. So with the pump house, next week we're going to be doing some excavating outside, some water main work. So parking is going to be kind of tight. I've let the Village Hall staff know, so everyone's kind of aware of that. Also, so that's going to be about 10 days worth of work. And then the other thing we got going is the road program is going to be commencing next week. They're going to be staging equipment, and that's going to be Arrowhead Trail, 65th place, 70th place. And there's a couple other small spots in town, the Wolf and Eastgate, a little shoulder work, the end of Hiawatha, a little shoulder work. And that's anticipated to be 2 to 3 weeks. And that's all I got.
So I think residents were given this at their doors. Is that correct?
They were going to begin distributing today a flyer to residents that will be impacted by the road program.
Yes.
And giving them notice.
Giving them a heads up, hey, this is going to be happening. There shouldn't be a lot of impact, a lot of blocked driveways or anything like that. So but Thomas Engineering went and posted those today, give everyone kind of heads up what's going on.
And I just wanted to thank the Public Works team. We have some new landscaping in the front of Village Hall. It looks great. So thank you very much.
We didn't do it. We had a contractor do it, Benji Landscaping, so.
Looks great. Thank you.
But it does look nice.
And that was Justin's initiative. Justin made that happen, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Looks great.
I had a question. They were talking about doing some work on the bridge on Wolf Road, just before 72nd Street. Have we heard anything as to when they're going to start that?
I have not heard anything. I know that there was a plan for it. There was some design I had seen, but that was probably like 2 months ago, and I haven't heard any other plans.
We were sent a detour plan about a month ago, and Gavin had to approve that to send it back. So he did that, and we were told it would be starting either in October or November. But we are in mid-October, so I don't know. Gavin, do you have
I would
anything?
like to clarify, the word approve was more of, I signed off that I had seen the plan. And approval is going to be up to the Department of Transportation and Highways for Cook County, or either that or IDOT. But it wasn't mine to approve. And I have reached out to the person who sent out that plan and earlier this week, and I haven't heard back about when, because we would like a date certain so that we can put that news out through our channels, but we don't have that.
Yeah, so there was a posting made on social media that project was going to happen like October, November, but we just have not been formally told that it's happening and when it's happening. So the only thing that we were told is, here's a detour, make sure you approve, you look at it and tell us you've looked at it. So now we've been waiting, trying to recontact, because it is a pretty significant detour that will impact people south of Wolf Road. So you will have local traffic going to the school, but we will be able to show you all that and share that with you as soon as they tell us what's going to happen. And that is a county project for the 72nd Street Bridge. Where you had the bump sign. If there is nothing else, I think we're at the moment where we can have a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we have a vote.
It can be a voice. Everybody
All in
aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting is now adjourned.